All right, welcome to Red Zone DFS Week 7. We got me and Jimmy. Vinny is on a business trip right now, but hey, we got two of us. That's all you need to tango.
He's not doing shit. He's getting hammered with his executives and all of his other employees. He's not. No, there's no business happening there. Let's
well,
just be honest.
I'm happy for the guy. I mean, he is missing out on the pod, which I'm sure he is missing. But I don't know. Getting drunk is an equalizer.
Yeah, that's not bad. Let's be honest here.
Not bad at all. Well, last week, I mean, I got thrashed, but I'm going to 100% attest that to the fact that I didn't get to podcast last week. So I missed the pod. I missed talking out some things, and look what happens. I'm a heavy proponent of betting against the public, and that even goes towards DFS, and that definitely gives me some leverage. And let's just say the public absolutely fucking raked last week.
They
So
destroyed last week.
Absolutely
Destroyed.
got rocked. I got absolutely rocked. So I'm ready for a bounce back week. There's some weird matchups on the slate. There's a lot of injured guys. And look, I'm gonna be trusting in Jimmy here to give me some of those bottom of the barrel garbage bin type of players that are going to get us there this week. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I seem to be able to locate the shit stabbers pretty regularly. So
yes, it's a talent of yours.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a talent. I don't know if it's a great one, but for DFS, it seems to be good.
Yes, it's very good. And quarterbacks this week, I mean, I've been looking through this over and over again all week. There's definitely some guys that I like. I don't feel like I'm going to spend up this week, and I'm kind of hoping that you talk me out of it a little bit. So who are some of these guys at the top that you're really interested in at the quarterback position?
So I'm very interested in a couple of things. Number one is I'm super interested in CJ Stroud this week at 7,100. The Packers are obviously coming off a decent game last week where they just kicked the shit out of the Cardinals. But Jordan Love can turn the ball over a little bit. And I mean, I think that this is going to be much more of a pass heavy game than people think it's going to be. And he's going to be like 1%, maybe less owned. So if I am going to pay up, I'm fine with going with CJ Stroud. He's got some nice stacking options, and it's just not somebody that a whole lot of people are going to play this week. So, from an ownership perspective and kind of getting different, I definitely like Stroud a little bit this week. Who are you looking at more at the top?
I mean, I agree with you on the Stroud. I love that game. I like that Nico Collins is out for DFS purposes. It just consolidates everything and puts players like Dalton Schultz into the field, which typically isn't, right? So you can definitely get some price savings there going with Stroud, and obviously down in ownership, which is fantastic. Do you have any interest? I mean, obviously Jaden Daniels is going to be very chalk this week, but me and you were talking about last week how we thought the Panthers were going to actually cover that game. And I think we were just a week off. And I think this is the week that the Panthers actually keep a game tight. Does Jaden Daniels give you anything right here?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a little bit owned, but only 9 to 10%. So, if you're going to pay up, I think that you can just go all the way up to him. The Panthers, I was kind of looking at it. The Panthers actually have, according to PFF, a top 5 offensive line when it comes to pass block. So it's why that, if we're talking about from a betting perspective, most of their games have gone over because they're able to score some points and move the ball. Washington's got a decent defense, but it's nothing crazy. So
their pass defense is really not good. They just lost their top defensive lineman. There's a chance that
I'm
Washington
fine
gives
with
up some
going all the way
points
up to
here.
Jaden Daniels. Yeah. So I'm fine with going to Jaden Daniels. I think that, I mean, you could play Josh Allen at 2%. And, if you just wanted to play Josh Allen by himself against Tennessee, you could definitely do that. But you're going to see as we kind of start to get down in price here, there's a lot of good pay up options at wide receiver and running back. So a lot of people are going to go very, very cheap. So, yeah, going down to the mid-range a little bit. I mean, there's a couple of guys I like here, but I don't know why in the hell Kirk Cousins is going like sub 5% owned right now against Seattle at home. I mean, we saw last Thursday
he's
night.
The most interesting person.
Yeah, like I mean, I like Purdy at 6,400. I think they're going to have to throw the ball a fair amount, and I like Cousins at 6,300. So like those guys are, we saw Cousins do it a couple weeks ago. Now I'm not expecting him to throw for 500 yards or anything like that, but for a mid-price guy, that's who I'm really kind of gravitating towards. Who do you that mid-range there?
I really like the Kirk Cousins play because I still feel like everyone's going to ride towards Darnold, right? Going against a Lions team that has a pretty bad pass defense, and they just lost Aiden Hutchinson, obviously. So I think right there, everyone's just going to gravitate towards Sam Darnold, where you can just go up $100 and go get Kirk Cousins against a Seattle team that just plays in shootouts. It's just the way their offense kind of runs is the way their defense kind of runs. They give up big plays. I really like the Atlanta options. Everyone usually just gravitates to Bijan, and you can really get some good leverage going to other spots, such as like a Darnell Mooney, who's just been an absolute killer this year. And Seattle's defense is banged up right now. So, no, I'm with you. Kirk Cousins is probably my favorite in this mid-range, and Purdy is a close second. I do believe San Francisco – Shanahan is not going to get out of his own head anyways, and he's going to throw the hell out of the ball even when they probably shouldn't. But Purdy, I think, does go like 32 to 35 pass attempts this game, and you just kind of hope he gets those like 3 touchdowns, right? And for DFS purposes, hopefully it goes to like one guy, which is rare, but you can also play Purdy by himself.
So, like, the argument for Purdy is, I mean, it's pretty clear. Like, I don't know if you saw some of those statistics coming out, but the Niners, after being the Yak Kings and whatever, they have the lowest yak percentage of the entire NFL this year. And it's really because people, they don't have Christian McCaffrey, right? So he's not dynamic in that short passing game. And teams are just going to say, okay, well, we're going to take away the short to mid-range stuff. And if Brock, you're going to beat us deep, then you're going to beat us deep. And it's one of the reasons why he's got 1,600 yards already, even though, the Niners are only 3-3, and that's maybe not the best possible route to the Niners winning games. This is definitely going to be one of the situations where I think that they are going to have to throw the ball. Steve Spagnuolo is a very good defensive coordinator. He's not going to allow Shanahan to run the ball, 25, 30 times how Shanahan wants to do it. So, yeah, it's going to be tough because if you are going to play Purdy, you're going to have to just, he's got a lot of different options that he throws to, and it's kind of difficult to pinpoint where it's going to go. As opposed to Kirk, it's a little bit more consolidated, right? So, yeah, those are two guys I think we're in agreement in the mid-range. Down here, like you said, Darnold is going to be the highest owned quarterback. Now, quarterback percentage is always spread out a little bit, but this is only a 10-game slate. So he's going to be like 13 to 17% owned. And then you've got Anthony Richardson coming in at like 13% owned, which is, I know he's playing the Dolphins, but man, I will have zero. If Anthony Richardson beats me this week, that's fine.
Yeah, it's just like watching Anthony Richardson.
So sub 6,000.
Yeah. I mean, look, first, Anthony Richardson it's frustrating to watch because the amount of potential points you could get and then how many passes he misses consistently. And again, he's injury prone and he tries to run the ball and be Superman. And the reality is he's trying to be Cam Newton and he's just not Cam Newton right now. And he just keeps getting hurt. So I feel like it's just a big risk. So no, thank you. But going down, I really like Geno Smith's always a play. Right. When they're playing behind, we just talked about the other side of that game. I do feel like this game has a ton of shootout potential. Yeah. And Geno Smith, I mean, he's got weapons. You can just line him up. You can do full game stacks with the Seattle Atlanta game. So Geno is definitely someone I'm interested in this area as well. So Gillen, I mean, if you want to talk on that, go ahead. But going down, who's your favorite?
It's going to be Matthew Stafford, 5,600, coming off a bye. Playing the Raiders, who Raiders,
they're not as bad as the Saints right now, but Jesus Christ.
I mean, Jesus Christ is right. And the main reason I'm interested is Cooper Kupp is going to play.
Exactly. Otherwise, I would be like, eh. But the fact that Cooper Kupp's coming back, what an easy DFS option.
It's one of those things where you're just like, eh. Well, and Matt Stafford is cheap, so you can stack him with Kyren and Cooper Kupp just very easily. And I don't think that's a stack that a lot of people are going to be getting to. You don't have to run anything back for the Raiders. If you do want to bring a run back, there's only really one option. Yeah,
you can go Bowers. It's easy.
That's it. So, yeah, but I mean, I'm looking at ownership right now, and he's getting squeezed in between Daniel Jones at about 12% and then Geno at like 12 to 14%. And he's going to be like 3% owned. So I got a guy for 5,600 that, to go 5x, you only need 26 points. I'm good with that right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is probably going to kill me this week, but I really like one guy in particular that's way down here, and there's a second guy that I'm going to dabble. But it's Andy Dalton. It's exactly what you just said. Carolina's offensive line's pretty good, right? They're 5,200. I feel like this is a game where Carolina is actually going to stay in it. The public is like 90% on Washington covering by 7.5 points. It's just not going to happen. The game is going to stay close. And again, it's a very easy to run just an Andy Dalton stack with either Deontay Johnson, Leggett, and then you can run it back with Washington McLaurin on the other side. I mean, you can get so creative with it. But talk about a price savings. You're saving about 2.5K going from Jayden Daniels down to Andy Dalton. Yeah. So Andy Dalton, it's scary to do, but he's going to be probably in 50% of my lineups this week.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing a lot of him too. He's getting he's getting a little bit of ownership, but that's fine at like 8 to 9%. The cost savings is just too attractive to go away from, and his stacking options are ridiculously cheap as well. So
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like that play. I'm probably not going to be going to anybody else down here. I might now. I was maybe going to play some Deshaun Watson, but now that they traded Cooper, I just don't think I can do it.
No,
I just can't do it.
Yeah, the only person I'm going to dabble in some like big GPPs is Tyler Huntley, and it's just because they're coming off a bye week. They're going to have some things schemed up. At some point, they're going to learn that, like, okay, just get Tyreek Hill the ball as fast as possible. Get Waddle the ball. Get these guys the ball. Stop running these elaborate plays. They have their running game back, right? They have A-Chain and Mostert going against a Colts defense that's probably the worst tackling defense I have seen in a few years. They just don't know how to tackle. So I have a feeling that you actually get some explosion type of plays here, right? Hit Tyreek on a middle screen and he's gone, right? Yep. So I do like some Tyler Huntley this week. It's just because they're coming off the bye. He's a little more familiar with the offense. Again, I'm not like nuking Tyler Huntley here, but I'm going to dabble a little bit. I do believe Miami's offense does gets back on the train a little bit. So I'll dabble.
All right. We'll move on to running back then, because I don't think there's anybody else down there that we need to.
No, absolutely not.
Award any time talking about.
And running backs is a hot topic right now, right? There's so many like injuries and guys splitting carries and like who's going to be the guy, and there's not really any pay down options, right? Like there's probably a one or two down here, but like it seems like this is the week like you're going to have to pay up at running back. So. Yeah. Here in your top, let's go above the 7K range. We'll stick to those guys. Who's your main guy you're going with?
It's just going to be Saquon. I'm just going to go all the way up. He's playing in a spot where, I know that the Eagles offense is kind of suffering a little bit right now, but the strength of the Giants defense is actually their pass rush. And, they know the division game. They know very well the history that they took him from New York, and I think that they're going to try and get him going in a big time in a big way. And at sub 7% ownership versus Kyren Williams, who's going to be 35% owned, for $100 more, I'll just play Saquon. I'll play Kyren in my Stafford stacks, but I'm not going to play Kyren just kind of by himself.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Barkley is, I think, a home run play. You just got to put him in there in most of your lineups. Find a way to pay up for him. The narrative is completely there. And Philadelphia, they have all of their receivers back. And when they have all their receivers back, you can't stack the box like they were in the last couple of weeks against Saquon, or they can, and then they'll just torch him the other way.
100%.
Saquon's an easy nuke type of play. I'll be playing him at probably 50% plus. I'll be starting off my lineup builds with him and then try to build around that.
Yeah, and I'll go back to Joe Mixon a little bit too. I mean, he's got the questionable tag, but he had the questionable tag last week, and I mean, did not show any sort of ill effects. Ran just fine. So yeah, I'll go back to Joe Mixon if I'm going to go up here a little bit. But after that big game from Saquon last week, his price is up a little bit, but his ownership is up into the mid-20s. And for a guy in a timeshare like that, I'd rather just pay $100 more and play Mixon, who they traded away Akers. They're giving him, 80 to 90% of the work. Pierce isn't going to do too much. Like, I would much rather just go to Mixon. I think he's definitely got, a higher upside. They're going to try and run. Houston's, kind of got to win this game. It's not a division game, or it's not even a conference game, right? But I think going on the road to win in Green Bay, they're going to try and run the ball a little bit. So that's a spot that I kind of like to get to this week.
Yeah, I like that too. And then, Kenneth Walker, he looks really good. But again, I just feel like Seattle's offense can't really get out of their own head, and they're leaning on Geno, and they're not leaning on a run game. So
yeah,
I don't know. I might have a couple of him, but I don't trust the offense, but he looks good.
He's getting ownership too. He's in the mid-20s. So
Jesus.
I mean, up here, just so up above 7,000, what we kind of talked about earlier is holding very true, that everyone's paying up. So Kyron 30 to 35%, Bijan 24 to 26%, and then Kenneth Walker 23 to 25% owned. So
wow,
yeah, that's a lot of more. As to where Mixon is right around 10 to 13%, Saquon 5 to 7%. Jordan Mason, if he's active, which he looks like he's going to be, he's getting like 4% ownership. So, there's definitely some decisions you got to make up here. So it's going to be interesting.
But one of the people I'm probably the most interested in is James Cook. He missed last week, so he's one of those people. People kind of forget about him. I mean, he's getting carries. Like they're riding him. They know they're like. Amari Cooper's going to make a difference, but it's probably not going to be this week. Tennessee's defense, nothing scares me about it. But James Cook played very well in his last game against a very good Texans defense. So James Cook, if he's not getting that kind of ownership, I'm definitely going to lean towards James Cook if I'm going above here. But I definitely have some interest down here in the 6K range. There's some weird misprices, I feel like. But going off to my point earlier about the Colts defense, they just can't tackle. And I have a feeling that the Dolphins are going to have some very explosive plays, and you just kind of hope that it's A-Chain. On top of that, I do play you and Yahoo Fantasy this week, and you have A-Chain, so I guarantee he puts up like a 40-burger. So that's typically how that goes. So I'm definitely going to ride some A-Chain. This Colts defense is god-awful. Yeah. It's really, really, really bad. And it's not because they don't have the dudes. Like, they're just playing bad defense. They can't tackle. So there's going to be some broken tackles and some broken plays. A-Chain can absolutely nuke this slate. With the Q tag, that does not concern me.
No, not at all. Going down a little bit more. Chuba is getting all kinds of crazy ownership, but I think it's for good cause. He's just constantly involved in the passing game. And I think you can play him in full game stacks because not a lot of people are going to get there with that. But playing him as a one-off and not in a game stack in that environment is probably not the best idea. The guy I'm going back to is Tony Pollard.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tajay Spears is not going to play. Buffalo's defense.
Not that it's really mattered anyways.
No, it hasn't really mattered anyway, but the amount of passing that Buffalo's defense gives up to opposing running backs is absolutely absurd. And in a game where you would expect the Tennessee Titans to be down, he's at 6,300. He's just going to get way too much work to ignore at this price, right? And when you're looking at other people who are going to get that same work for $2,000 more, I would rather just go down to play Tony Pollard. So I will probably have Tony Pollard in 25 to 35% of my lineups this week, just because the points per dollar for where he's priced is just frankly a misprice. So
he's
the
only person. Now. He's the only person in the offense that they can lean on.
Correct.
And they're just going to keep doing that. So
yep,
it's great. Moving down. Is there anyone down? This is where it gets tough. Like this is people that are splitting carries, bad matchups, etc. Is there anyone down here that interests you?
So I actually like a couple of guys. I think that Chase Brown has pretty much shown now that he's going to get at 65 to 70% of the carries for the Bengals. And in a game good. Versus he just looks so much more explosive than
he looks good.
Like he's just got a burst and a level of, wiggle that Zach Moss just doesn't have. Zach Moss had the fumble. Cleveland or Cincinnati is at a point, where they cannot afford to lose games. They have to win this game, and he's going to be extremely involved in the offense. And in a week where, like you said, there's not a lot of like pay down options at running back. I think that Chase Brown is perfectly fine at 5,900, and I'll probably have a fair amount of him. He's getting a little bit of ownership, but like not enough to scare me away from him.
Yeah, totally.
What do you think? Okay. What do you think about Nick Chubb this week?
I want to play him. It's weird, right?
Yeah,
because I don't think Cleveland is like obviously like from the outside, it's like they're in a must-win situation, but at the same time, are they, or are they just tanking this thing, right? Like they just got rid of Amari Cooper. They're just keep throwing Deshaun Watson out there.
Yeah.
I love the theory that Stefanski was forced to play Watson by the owner and get him in the first place, and he just you want him, you fucking got him. This is what you're going to get. And like, he knows he's going to get like fired over it, and he does not give a shit because Stefanski's a good coach. But Chubb, I have a feeling like his cap is 15 carries, right? And you just hope that it's like 2 touchdowns. But the reality is how much is Cleveland really going to be in the red zone?
Probably not a whole lot, right?
I'm really interested in watching him. I love Nick Chubb, but this situation is just really, really bad. So I'm probably just going to avoid that this week.
Yeah. Going down, I mean, I think that there's only one real viable option down here, and there's 2 guys, I guess. There's Madison for the Raiders, who's basically, with Zamir White out, getting just all of the work. I don't know what his ceiling is against the Rams. The Rams don't have a great defense, and the Raiders really, with Adrian O'Connell, really just need to run the ball. So, like, I think that, like, if you just need somebody who, at 5,500, if you can get, like, 15 to 16 out of him, I think that that's perfectly fine, right?
Yeah, and you just hope, again, that the Rams kind of get up a little bit and then Madison gets some catches, things like that. The problem is they're mixing in Amir Abdullah as their third down back. Zamir White might actually play this week, and you just don't know. Like, are they going to throw him out as the starter? Or is Madison going to be the starter? I just feel like there's a little too much confusion there with the backfield. Yeah. And I personally – I went with Madison last week, and it went really well for me because he got like 5 catches. He put up like 18 points. It was great. But with White coming back, this offense doesn't know what the hell they're doing. I'm probably staying away from that as well and just paying up at running back.
Yeah. The other guy that, like, you just have to consider down here because they're giving him literally split carries with Bijan is Tyler Algier.
Agreed.
At 5,100 for a guy that in a game where you and I both think that there's going to be quite a bit of scoring, and if Atlanta gets up to a big lead, like, they have shown that, like, they're not just they're going to give this guy carries. So, like, I don't know, like, Bijan 7,100, a guy who's $2,000 less, like, yes, he doesn't have the explosive ability that Bijan has, but he's going to get near the equal of opportunities. So at 5,100, like, I'm absolutely going to be taking some shots on Algier. And I think that, like, even if you wanted to, like, if you're going to play Geno on one side, honestly, it worked last week, and I don't know how many weeks that it's going to work, but Algier and Bijan both got there last week. So
yeah. So in a lot of my best ball lineups, all my best ball lineups that have Bijan, I picked Algier late as a handcuff, right? And they both ended up being my starting running backs in all my best ball leagues. They both got there.
Yeah, below him though, it's pretty ugly. So I don't know if there's anybody else viable down there. All right.
No.
On to wide receiver.
Let's do it. Another area where paying up is definitely more it's more incentivized, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing this week is that I look at the ownership over here now, all of the pay up options, like you can't just pay up everywhere, right? So all the pay up options for wide receiver are going to be fairly low owned, right? So AJ Brown, 5%. I don't know why. Do people think that, like, I know he's expensive, but did anybody watch AJ Brown play last week? I mean, he is single-handedly the reason why the Eagles won that game. He made 2 absolutely incredible catches. And Devonta Smith had a touchdown, but he had like 4 catches for like 63 yards and like a 45-yard touchdown. AJ Brown is the absolute alpha, and at 5% owned, like, I'm just going to be playing AJ Brown. Like, I'm going to force myself into some of those stacks and I'm just going to stack all of them together. I'm going to play Hurts with AJ Brown and Saquon, and you can do it too. It's not too difficult to do. You can definitely get there with playing like some of the guys like Algier, and then there's some pretty good value at wide receiver too once we get down here a little bit.
Yeah, and what I like about AJ Brown the most is they're just going to every now and again just do a 3-step drop and go deep to him. Right. And just give him a shot. As soon as they see there's one-on-one coverage, they're just going to do a 3-step drop and they're just going to throw it to him. And I don't really like Jalen Hurts as a quarterback, but one thing he does well is he does throw a really nice deep ball.
Yeah.
And he lays it out there really, really well. So AJ Brown has definitely some nuking ability. I really like AJ Brown. Jamar Chase, as usual, I really like him. What scares me about this game is like Bengals get up early and then that's that. And that's why I love the Chase Brown play on the other side, like you were saying.
Yeah,
Justin Jefferson makes the most sense. He's the most logical play. Like we talked about earlier, this Lions defense isn't great in the first place. They just lost their best pass rusher. And look, they're just going to lean on Justin Jefferson and let him go. So Justin Jefferson is the most logical choice, but what's like Justin Jefferson's ownership coming in at right now?
12%. Nothing crazy.
Okay. Nothing crazy. So
just because you can't, because so many people are paying up. Yeah. So many people are paying up for running backs that, like, you know, there's just not enough money to go around. You know, 3 of the running backs above 7,000 were in the like high 20% ownership range. So like you're going to get some spots with Justin Jefferson where you're just going to be like, okay, like let's go, you know? And like you said, Detroit is a big time pass funnel. And the reason why their defense was playing well is because their pass rush was great. And now Aiden Hutchinson is gone. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that dynamic is. You know, in a dome environment, I think you've got to get some shares of Jefferson this week. I'm with you there, Joe.
Agreed. Going down a little bit, Malik Neighbors, you know, if this game goes the way we think it's going to go, Philly gets up early. Like, I love like the Saquon on one side with Neighbors on the other side in the same, it's not even a game stack, but just playing both of them in the same lineup just makes sense. If Philly gets up early, Saquon's going to get his carries. They've shown late in games, Dayball will just go, no, throw it to Malik Neighbors. Like, we're going to design plays for him and get him open, right? So Neighbors is going to get his, and he's proven that he's just the next LSU product to come out to dominate this league with Jefferson and Chase. So Malik Neighbors is an obvious one. I think Tyreek Hill is also, again, I just think there's going to be some really explosive plays in this game. I don't think anyone's really on it at all playing Miami. So if there's a week that you can get on Tyreek at low ownership at the lowest price you've ever seen him, it's probably this week.
Yep, I definitely agree with you there. I think it's a smash spot for Tyreek. He's just too explosive of a player. Miami kind of has to win just to kind of get some good mojo back going in that building to try and build some momentum from when Tua comes back. I think Tua will be back next week. So there was some, I don't think he was even eligible to come back this week based on his IR status. So I think he'll be back next week. And I think it's just something that not a lot of people are going to get to. So I think it's one of those things where you just got to kind of force yourself to get there. And I think you'll be happy that you did. once you do get there. So
yep. And Tyreek in a dome against a terrible tackling defense set again. So sign me up for
fine
that.
with that.
Going
down a little bit. So Terry McLaurin.
Yes, sir.
I just don't understand why his ownership is the way that it is. 7% against a very bad Carolina team. I guess everyone thinks that they're just going to complete. Look, Washington is much improved this year, and they're pretty good. But I just don't think that they're going to, like you said, I don't think that they're just going to completely blow them out by 20 or 30 points. But even if they do, Terry McLaurin can still get there. It's only 6,800. So, I'm going to be going there.
His points the last 4 weeks, 23, 18, 17 and a half, 23 and a half. Like there's consistency there. He's built a rapport with Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels is throwing him the ball. And every other receiver in that Washington wide receiver core, they're all splitting time. The only one that's on the field 90% of the time is Terry McLaurin. So he's your surefire bet if you want to go to that game. I love Terry McLaurin this week.
Yeah, going down a little bit more, I think that Xavier Worthy is somebody that you have to get into a large percentage of your lineups this week. The 49ers, Charvarius Ward will be back, and he plays larger receivers well. You saw that, now DK almost got there last week, but the 49ers just play larger receivers much better than the small, shifty guys. 49ers are amongst the league in missed tackles this year, and a small little shifty guy like that is just super fast is going to be a very big problem for the 49ers secondary. And at 3% owned in a game that I think is going to have a lot more scoring than a lot of people think, I really, really like that individual play out of that game at only 6,400. So I'm going to be getting quite a bit.
Yeah. And on top of that, I feel like the Chiefs haven't really unlocked Worthy yet. We've seen some glimpses of it, but he's not really getting the targets that much. If there's a week that Andy Reid is going to dial up some stuff for Xavier Worthy, it's going to be this week against the Niners, right? Great pass rush coming at them, coming off a bye. Andy Reid coming off a bye is, look, as a Raider fan, we always have to play the Chiefs coming off a bye, and it's one of the most excruciating things in the world because Andy Reid has the best record of all time coming off of a bye week. So I think he is going to line up some plays for Xavier Worthy for sure. And look, he's going to try his best to keep Nick Bosa away from Mahomes, and that means getting Worthy the ball quick a lot.
Yep. Going down here below 6,000, who's your guy here in like the in the 5 range that you really like?
Well, right before we get to the 5s, it's Jameson Williams at 6K. He's here,
that's a good one,
right? He's here, right? And at 6K, I just think he's wildly mispriced. He only might get 3 catches, but again, the explosiveness is insane. The Vikings have played really stingy red zone defense, and that's what's really been unlocking them, but they are prone to giving up some big plays. And if there's going to be some big plays in this game, it's going to be from Jameson Williams. So he's one of my favorites. If you give me one Detroit player that I want to play, it's him. And that's saying something because they got some studs.
Yeah, I am going to be playing Amari Cooper. Just got traded to Buffalo. I don't really care. He's now with a quarterback that has, the ability to throw him the ball. It's just one of those things where I really like the job in a week where everything is really, really expensive. The Josh Allen stack with Shakir and Cooper is fantastic. I think having Amari Cooper there and allowing Khalil Shakir to play more out of the slot where he's used to playing more is going to really unlock him. And I think Buffalo is going to kick the shit out of Tennessee. And having a wide receiver assimilate into an offense is not a whole big issue with that some people think that it is. And at 5,800, he got a huge price drop because he got traded, I guess, or they just matched his price. It looks like from where he was on Cleveland. But yeah, Amari Cooper, 5,800. Definitely think that is a thing you got to get to on a week where there's not a lot of value. You got to be there. And then my other guy in the 5s is going to be Romeo Doubs at 5,500. I don't know why his ownership percentage is 2%. Dontavian Wicks is hurt. He's probably not going to play this week. So it's him and Christian Watson working in. I know Jaden Reed is there, but they're playing a pretty good defense in Houston, and Houston is going to do what they can to take away Jaden Reed. So there's going to be ample opportunities for Romeo Doubs this week. I mean, even when Wicks is there, he's still out there running routes on like 92% of plays, passing plays. So like, like at 5,500, again, a week where it's very difficult to find like quality value, 5,500 is going to be a fantastic price for a guy that's going to get that much volume, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I might sound like a broken record, but Jalen Waddle at 5,300 is
I can't do it.
I know you can. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet this year. He's been getting 4 catches a game, 5 catches a game. He is explosive. Again, this Colts defense, I'm just going to kind of line up against them. Like, I'm not going to just load it up, but like it does interest me to have a Huntley, Waddle, Tyreek type of stack, or you pick one of those receivers with A-Chain. This Colts defense is going to give up points, and no matter who they're playing. So Waddle at 5,300 just seems a little too juicy. So I like that. We talked about the stacks with Carolina. I like Leggett, but this is your time to shine. Who are the guys here in the 4K range, 3K range that we really need to keep our eye on?
So I think you got to go back to Ray McCloud a little bit. He's just a definite, fixture of that offense. He gets opportunities. He hasn't done a whole lot in a couple of weeks. But against a pretty bad Seattle secondary that's starting guys that were hanging drywall a couple of weeks ago at corner, I think he's somebody that you kind of just have to find a way to work him into your lineups. So I really like him there. Going down a little bit more, I like going back in that Washington game to Noah Brown. He was a full participant in practice on Thursday, fully practiced yesterday. He was getting, 8-9 targets a game when he was healthy there for a couple of games. And down here in this range he's a guy that has legitimate 20-point upside.
Yep.
I think that your boy Trey Tucker, who put up a nice fat 0 last week, burned a lot of people. I get that, but the Raiders are so cyclical. They're going to go back and forth and stuff like that. I think that they're going to make it a point, especially now that, I don't know if Jacoby Myers might be back this week. And I think that actually if Jacoby Myers is back, then I might actually help out Trey Tucker a little bit. Kind of like the Shakir thing where it takes a little bit of pressure off him to get open because, Myers is going to garner, the attention of the Rams defense. So I'm going to go back to Trey Tucker. But once you go down past that, it gets like very, very, very ugly. I don't even know who I would want to play. I mean, I think that a guy we saw it last week, and he actually was in the Millie Maker lineup is Tim Patrick.
I was just going to mention
3,500.
Yeah, he's their 100. He's their 3 receiver dead set. Like no one's rotating with him. Like he's their number 3 receiver.
Exactly, and you've got St. Brown, and you've got Jameson Williams, and then Sam Laporta is back healthy again. Those guys are going to be the primary to cover, and Minnesota is going to say, if Tim Patrick beats us, then Tim Patrick beats us. Then what the hell are we going to do? So
exactly
at 3,500, I'm more than fine with taking a shot at Tim Patrick. I think he's really kind of the only option to take a shot with down here. There's not a whole lot of other people. No. A lot of people are playing Elijah Moore, it looks like, this week. Just because, Amari's not there anymore, but chalky wide receivers at 3,200 and chalky for this is he's going to be 15 to 16% owned. Okay. No, thank you. Right.
No, I'm out. No, thanks.
So, and that's about it. I think that Tim Patrick is probably fine to go back to this week down here. And then Noah Brown, I'm going to have some interest in, and then Trey Tucker. Those are the kind of cheap guys that I'm taking a look at.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, there's no one else really. And you mentioned all the same guys that I was thinking about. So that definitely makes me happy. So, all right, let's move on to tight ends. I know the top right is going to get it, but look, Brock Bowers is the only legitimate option in the entire Raiders offense. You can't just double team tight ends. He's going to get his. There's a chance he gets 10 plus catches. Aiden O'Connell, one thing, you can say anything you want about him, but he likes to throw the ball between the hash marks. Yep. Doesn't really like throwing it on the outside. It's why Trey Tucker really didn't get much love last week. But he will throw between the hashes over and over and over again. It's something he excels at. Bowers, he just needs to find some zones. And look, he's going to get peppered this week. So sign me up for Brock Bowers and most of my lineups. And 5,800 for the number one receiver on a team, sure.
So these top three guys, Kelsey, Kittle, and Bowers, are all going to be less than 3% owned.
That's
and it's
wild.
Just well, I mean, we've kind of on a short slate with not a lot of value. You can kind of see why, right? Like it's just going to be kind of tough to get to some of these guys. But if you play more of a balanced lineup throughout and play, some of the running backs we were talking about in the 6s instead of running back in the high 7s, right? And receivers in the mid 6s to low 6s. Like if you build your lineup out like that, then you can get to whichever one of these guys that you want. And I think that you kind of have to prioritize that because people are going to go value hunting a little bit this week. And especially at tight end, there's a couple of spots that people are going to. Like everyone's going to Kincaid because his price dropped. And then a bunch of people are going back to Tucker Kraft, which I'm not a huge fan of.
I like Kincaid. I just don't think yet. Right, like Amari Cooper is going to help his status a lot, right? But not yet. But like next week, the week after, like, dude, I'm firing up Kincaid. But I just don't think it's the right time right now. So I'm going to avoid Kincaid.
Well, the scary thing is that he is very much like Kittle in years past, where he's going to have a couple of spike week games, and you just kind of want to be involved in those spike weeks. But he's only $800 less than Bowers, and I would rather just find the $800 with a shitty defense or something to go play Bowers over Kincaid this week. I just think that, with the usage he's on track to lead the NFL in receiving at tight end as a rookie, and that's something that has not happened in a very long time. So he's a special player. So going down a little bit in mid-range, I've got some interest. I mentioned earlier, I really like CJ Stroud. I've got some interest in Dalton Schultz at 4,200. Not overly cheap, but going to be in like the 1% own range because right next to him, everyone is playing David Njoku because
that makes me sad because I'm a big Njoku guy.
I think it's fine if you want to play Njoku, but like a lot of people are going to be getting to him. So, it's one of those things where you just have to make the stand there. And then the other value play that people are getting to down here because starting tight end for the Eagles, I can't remember his name right now. Goddard is out. So Grant Calcaterra at 3,200 is the starting tight end. So he's going to get like 15 to 16% ownership. I have a guy a little bit lower that I love this week. Is there anybody in this like 4,000 to like 3,000 range that you have any interest in?
No, I mean, I was thinking about Zach Ertz. It's an upside problem, right? He's going to get his catches, right? He's a good like cash game play. His floor is going to be fine, but there's no upside. He's not going to get you a 20-point game, no matter how well he plays. So I thought about it, and then no, thank you. But no one else really in that area.
I would rather play Noah. I have some interest in Noah Fant at 3,500. It's not going to be anything crazy, but he can easily get you like 12 to 16 points. He had 12 points last week, and he didn't even get into the end zone. Now, that was some garbage time at the end, but those points still count.
And but that's why you play Seahawks players in DFS is because they are the garbage time team.
Yeah, they're just going to be. I mean, Gino's throwing the ball like 45, 50 times a game. But my guy that I really like down here is somebody that I was very interested in, and I'm actually really happy that Theo Johnson from the Giants is garnering ownership because nobody is playing Jatavian Sanders from Carolina. 9 targets last week, had a decent game. But at 2,900, at less than 1% owned, I am more than fine with playing Jatavian Sanders instead of Theo Johnson at 2,900. I mean, I think it's actually a fantastic play, and I might have him in like, I don't need to have him, but like if I need just like a value play, that's going to be my value play that I go to. He has so much more opportunity than some of those cheap wide receivers that we were talking about. So if I need to pay down, I'll pay down at defense, and I'll pay down to Jatavian Sanders at 29.
I like it.
Anybody else for you down here? No,
I keep playing this one guy, and I just got to stop. It's just a bad habit, and it's Eric All Jr. I just got to stop playing him. It's not.
Yeah,
I keep thinking he's about to be the guy, and
I mean, against the Niners that have very good cover safeties and cover.
No. Eric All on Cincinnati going against the Browns.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were Noah Gray. Yeah.
No.
I mean, he is like their technical tight end who's getting the most targets, but like
he's starting to get more play time than Gesicki. He's like taking over, right? And I'm just like, oh, this is going to be the week, and I'm like, okay, I just got to hold off until he proves it. So
yeah,
I've played him a few times the past couple of weeks, and I just got to quit that habit. So all right, let's move on to defense. All right, let's start on the low end. Who is your low price defense of the week?
I've got two. The Texans, which everybody else is on, which kind of sucks. I'm not excited that everyone else is playing the Texans, but I actually have a little bit of interest in the Giants.
Thank you.
Their pass rush is very good. Now, it sucks that Thibodeau is out, but their pass rush is actually very, very good. Their defense is not as bad as a lot of things show, and Hurts does some weird shit. And not only Hurts, but there's other guys on that team that fumble a lot too. So the Giants have a pretty good special teams unit as well. I like them at 2,500. I mean, I don't think that game is going to be like overly like high scoring. It's going to be somewhere in the mid 20s, but like Hurts will take some sacks and he'll throw some interceptions. So at 2,500, like, I mean, we're kind of grasping for straws, but that I would prefer them probably the best out of anybody down there. What about you?
I really like the Giants. Brian Burns is an absolute monster.
Yeah.
And he's kind of achieved that next level where he's like all pro type player. Jalen Hurts, like as much as he gets rushing yards and rushing touchdowns, he probably has one of the worst escapabilities in the league.
It's so
like whenever
weird.
He gets pressure, he just like he cradles the ball and just tries to hold the ball and he gets sacked. Like he doesn't have good escapability whatsoever. I think the Giants get multiple sacks this game. They have a pretty high floor. It scares me that Philly could put up 30 points on them potentially. But they're going to get sacks. They're going to have a couple turnovers. So I really like the Giants play quite a bit.
Well, honestly, down here, like if the Giants get me 2 or 3 points, like I'm fine with that. Like I just don't think that there's a defense this week that's worth paying, a whole bunch of more money for that is going to net you a whole lot else. I mean, you could argue maybe the Rams at 3,000 look like an interesting play if you have the money for it. But I mean, that's about it. I just don't, I just don't know if there's anything else that, like, looking at all the defenses, the Rams at 3,000 is probably going to be the top. You could argue that the Niners at home versus Kansas City might be a decent option, just because, obviously it's the Chiefs and Mahomes and stuff like that, but like, they have not been very explosive. Mahomes has thrown 6 interceptions already this year.
He has the lowest yards per attempt by any quarterback this season. It's kind of crazy to think about, but he's thrown it short. Nick Bosa is playing on a whole. I mean, we all know he is one of the best players in the league, but he's playing at a whole different tier lately. And Fred Warner is the best linebacker in football, the best coverage linebacker in football. I think he's going to be able to shut down Kelsey. They're going to have to keep tight ends in the game just because of Nick Bosa. The Chiefs are going to have to rely on receivers that are all unproven. You're talking about Juju Smith-Schuster is the guy that they're going to be leaning on. I really like this Niners defense this week.
Yeah. And like I said, too, like if you play some of the mid-range plays and kind of build more of a balanced lineup this week, you can play the Niners defense no problem, right? And, if you're looking at the Texans defense at 15 to like 18% owned, I think that you can find that $400 to get up to the Giant or to the Niners or to the Rams, whichever one you would prefer. I think those are both good options to get up to because I don't think that there's a lot of people there that are going to get up to those plays.
Agreed.
All right, so let's go for top stacks. Who is your top stack this week, Joe?
It's Carolina and Washington. Carolina being the top, right? So Carolina, I want to go Andy Dalton. I want to go Deontay Johnson. I want to go Leggett, and then I want to run it back with McLaurin, potentially Noah Brown, and just hammer that game. That is my top stack without a doubt, bar none.
If you want to get cheap, Joe, pull out Leggett and put Jatavian Sanders in.
Or pull out Deontay Johnson, keep Leggett.
No, I think it's a smash spot for Johnson this week. I'm prioritizing him for the amount of looks that Sanders is going to get at 2,600. I've already built a few teams like that, and you can pretty much play whoever else you want to. So yeah, that's definitely a good one. I'm going to go off the board a little bit. I talked about him a little bit, but it's going to be the Bills for me. And you can do it several different ways. You can do it with Allen and Cook and just those two. You can do it with Allen, Shakir, and Cooper. If you want to make sure that you don't miss out on a potential spike week, you can do Allen and Kincaid. I think just those two are kind of interesting because I don't think a lot of people are maybe going to get to those two. I think that, and then I like just running it back with just Pollard on the other side.
Yes.
So that is going to be, my preferred. I think it's going to be my favorite stack to get to. I also think that the Niners stack is interesting. And then the Niners and the Texans are going to be like my 2A and 2B stacks. But if you're forced me to play one, it's going to be the Bills.
Yeah, and your Buffalo stack, it's my personal favorite thing to do is stack all the passing options on one side, run it back with the running back on the other team. That's going to get a lot of catches late in the game. And this is set up perfectly for it. It's my favorite thing you can do in DFS. So yep. I love that, and I'm definitely going to have that going. All right, so let's go to our bold calls of the week. My bold call of the week is, we were just talking about him, so sorry, but Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's my bold call of the week. I think he gets 25 plus points at 6,300. And there's no pay down options at running back like we talked about. So if you guys want to be able to go up at receiver and get those low ownership, you want to go up at other positions, you're going to have a guy like Pollard just absolutely nuke. So he is my bold call of the week. Tony Pollard, 25 plus points.
That's a good one, Joe. So my bold call of the week is going to be Xavier Worthy at 6,400. I think that I just think he's going to roast the shit out of the Niners, and I think that he could put up 30 this week.
I'm not against it. I love it. So, guys, make sure you have Pollard and Xavier Worthy in the same lineup for a double nuke.
My other guy who was like splitting hairs between, I think it's Romeo Doubs at 5,500. I think he also has the ability to go for like 30 points this week. So, but Worthy is going to be my priority just because he's in a weird price range too, and no one's going to play him. And like you said, Andy Reid coming off a bye has had plenty of time to look at the Niners' weaknesses. And being a Niners fan, obviously, I know that short, shifty receivers, they have a big problem with those guys. So yeah, that'll do it for us this week, Joe.
All right, man. Good pod. We kept it under an hour. All right, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, repost, retweet, whatever you do, just get involved. Make sure you're hitting us on Twitter. We love to respond. We love to go back and forth. And good luck on Sunday with the mini 10-game slate. See ya.